Hey, Gio, thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
For those who may not know, you are originally from Venezuela. And like every great story, I like to start at the beginning. So, would you share what it was like growing up in Venezuela?
Yeah. Well, my dad was a bowler. He quit a couple years ago. He's in his senior years, like way up there, so he doesn't bowl anymore. But I grew up in a bowling center in Venezuela. Bowling is not, let's say, a huge sport down there. It's baseball and soccer. Those are the sports are like the favorite ones, let's say. But I grew up bowling all my life in a bowling center, so I loved it. I played soccer and other sports. I was just not super interested as I was with bowling. I guess
When did you first
the,
pick up a bowling ball?
I was 6 years old when I
Okay.
picked up a bowling ball. Yeah, a 6 pounder. In the 6 years, I just turned six, and my dad gave me a 6 pounder, like a 6 pound bowling ball. So that's how it started. And once I grew up a little bit, and I was 8, 9 with my 10 pound ball. When I was 12, there was the minimum age required to join an academy in my home city that we had. That's when I started like joining. I joined the academy, but I've been bowling pretty much all my life. Every Saturday, I will go with my parents to go on ball and with them from 2 p.m. until the bowling center was closing. So it is something that it was always rooted in me in a way.
When you say the academy, is that like an educational program for bowling, or is that just
Yeah.
school? Okay.
No, it was like an academy. Let's say we used to have a bowling center. It was owned by the state. So they had a bowling program for kids after 12 years old until the way until 20. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, there was U23, under 23 divisions back then. So as long as you were on those between 12 years old to 23 years old, you were allowed to be practicing with like for the state. So you would like practice, and they had three different coaches: the beginner, intermediate, and advanced,
Okay.
in a way to speak it. And people were practicing, and they will practice with the like the beginners. So it will be with the beginner coach and the intermediate ones, and you have like few people in the advanced group.
Okay.
And back home, differently to US, like you could let's say bowl for your state. It's
Okay.
something that like here you will like try out. As you try out for like Team USA, will you have state tryouts, and if you qualify, you go and represent the state in different tournaments. They're like 10, 12 different states representing their own, like people representing their own states, and we will bowl different tournaments like that. So it's like a different way to see bowling. uh, I just bowled all my life there, and once I came to US, thanks to bowling actually. Yeah, like I was in the part of the national team since 2006. That's
Okay.
when the first time I was 16 years old, and that's when I made the team for the first time. I went to few events in South America mostly. Then when I was going to 20, 20, 21 years old, I made the adult national team. And when in a Central American championship, I met Del Warren, which is a Weber coach. And I talked to him trying to come to US, and he offered me a scholarship. And my parents was like, it's a win-win. You can go to US,
Sure.
study ball, which is what you love. And that's how I ended up coming to US for bowling, to bowl and go to school.
Do you still have a lot of family back in Venezuela, and do you get to go visit them often?
Last time that I went, it was in 2017.
Okay.
So it's been 8 years now. In July, it's going to be 8 years. It's been a while, but my parents come every year for December.
Okay.
My brother lives in Florida, so I we go to Florida and we meet and we spend New Year's or Christmas, or we pick which holidays we spend together. But yeah, I see them once a year, which is I wish it was a little more, but because of situations back home, I rather not go back in a way.
Sure. I
But
understand.
yeah, but yeah, like I see them very often. My parents are there. I have an older brother that lives in Italy. He
Okay.
also used to bowl, and my younger brother, who was never super into bowling, he was more into computers. So he was that type of, let's say, a gamer. So
Okay.
he was not into the bowling part, but yeah, he also bowled for a little bit. Like we all grew up bowling or around bowling in a way.
You kind of mentioned it there just a little bit. I don't know if you want to touch on it at all, but the current state of Venezuela, does that kind of hinder you from going back visiting family?
Yeah, in a way, yes. So I came to US in 2014. and I came because of to go to Weber, where I went for 4 years, 5 years actually, because I had to spend 1 year studying English.
Okay.
As yeah, so you have to. There's a TOEFL test which every international have to take in order to come to US to study.
Okay.
So I decided to come to US and take English in US, like learn English here, and then take the test. So I spent 1 year doing that, and
Did
then
you speak English before then, though?
not even a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's not even a little bit. It was completely non-existent in my vocabulary. Yeah, it was funny, but yeah, I just don't go because I had like a couple bad experiences. My family had bad experiences, and so they decided to. We all decided to migrate out, and because of school, I had the opportunity to come, and that led me to get a job offer. A 900 Global that was in Texas, which in 2020 it was acquired by Storm, which led to have the opportunity to come to Utah to work for Storm. So it's many different things that has happened to that led me to now being Utah, Brigham City, Utah, of all places.
Yeah. Uh, as a young boy, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a professional bowler.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, like in my mind, the only I love bowling and I always like bowling. So in my mind, the only way that I could make a living in the bowling industry is being a professional bowler. Come in here, bowl, and I didn't even know there was such a thing as like some people having contracts where they get paid. To
Sure.
me, it's like you go, you win the tournament, you make money, and that's how you live.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just a little wrong, right? So I'm just happy that once I got to Weber, I got to since Weber practices at Kegel Training Center, I got the opportunity to see that the bowling industry is just not the bowling part of it, the sport of it. There is a whole industry and business behind the lanes, the pin setters, the oil machines, the
Sure.
kegel as it is, and the bowling ball manufacturers and all that. So that's what I started being more into. Like, well, to make a living out of bowling, I will have to, as a bowler and bowl, I will have to be super extremely good at it. And I was like, I think that I can have a more of a win-win situation if I bowl in the industry and I still, or I work in the industry and I still bowl on the side different events or tournaments. So I think that that was the decision, and that was my option.
Now, you mentioned there just a little bit about the bowling industry. Would you share a little bit about you work for Storm? Would you share a little bit about what you do there and what your position is?
Right now, I'm a position in the quality control and R&D, research and development.
So if my ball doesn't hook very
When
good, I need to call you. If I can't knock them in all the
Yeah,
pins every time.
totally, totally. I am the guy to blame. No, well, pretty much. Like in the quality control area part, we just make sure it's a team of three. We have two more guys, and they are the auditors. We just make sure that the whole process of making a bowling ball from the very beginning, the raw materials to make the weight blocks, the materials to make the cores, the weights that they have to be at in order to end up being, let's say, 15.3. It will be our middle target or
Okay.
our target, uh, to make sure that all that process is happening, that the pitch blocks are made out of urethane and there are no any mistake where they put reactive resin into a pitch block or things like that. We just make sure that the whole process is being uh, made the right way, in a way.
So talking about resourcing materials, would you share a little bit about, from an internal perspective, back when the Phase 4 came out and then immediately got discontinued because of hardness issues? So would you explain a little bit about what happened internally there and what actually was happening?
Yes, so there were six balls, if I'm not mistaken, besides the Spectre. There were six other balls. They were flagged and they were discontinued. They were banned by the USBC because of softness. In our end, what we were trying to research is we hadn't had any problems with the aspect of softness with the balls until that situation. What we realized that was happening is that our polisher at the moment, uh, once you check the hardness of a ball, you pretty much poke the ball with a needle. When a ball is polished, that needle gets lubricated by the polish of the ball.
Hmm.
So
And
the more you
we're talking like
punch it,
microscopic kind of stuff, right? Is it?
microscope,
Okay.
yeah, is to a thousands
Wow.
of, yeah, and that needle gets a little lubricated, so it gives the sensation, or it gives the idea of the needle that is poking a little farther
Because it's
inside the
lubricated, it's
ball.
easier for it to push
It-
into the ball.
exactly, and
Okay.
it's that layer of polish that is going through also, so it makes the ball punch, or it makes the ball seem that it's a little softer. If you would punch the same exact ball, but if you hit it with surface, it would not show that
Hmm.
is punching softer.
So the surface of the ball was actually within legal standards. It was that polish over time, testing, that the needle get more lubricated. So the balls themselves were actually okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In our end, that's why yeah. Yeah. Obviously, the decisions are made by our entity, our government entity. So,
Sure.
those we came to different agreements on what to do and what we can do in order to move forward, and in order to like avoid that from happening again.
How was that resolved then? I mean, how would you keep the needle now moving forward from getting lubricated?
We change our polish.
Okay.
We're using a different compound, and that compound doesn't lubricate, or doesn't make the needle punch softer, or show that it's punching softer than what the bowling ball actually is. There's still some variance.
Okay.
If you grab right now any polished ball and you punch it 4 or 5 times, you're gonna see that the number is going slowly dropping on the number of
Hmm.
the hardness. Let's say you're punching, it's a 75 the first time, and then you know that by the rules it cannot be any softer than 73 hardness.
Right.
So they say that you punch the first one, it's a 75, and then 74A, 74A, 74.6, but there's a point where it plateaus and it's still higher than let's say the rule tells you, or the floor. But we change the polish where we still, even though it still drops a little bit on the hardness, it's still within compliance.
So there wasn't a needle issue though, or a lubricating the needle issue prior to that line of bowling balls. So was there a different
Uh,
compound used, a polished compound used on those, and that's why it suddenly
no,
started testing different?
the compound was quite the same that we were using prior. It just it happened at the moment that
Hmm.
they were test on field. Usually, it used to be before that. Every time that we would send volleyballs to be tested for hardness, it would
Gotcha.
be a 500 grit sanded. But once the volleyballs are tested on the fields, they are being tested at the final surface, which in this case they were polished. And
Gotcha.
if you look at which volleyballs were banned at the moment, they were all polished balls. There were the Phase 4, the Wolverine, there was the reality, altered reality, UFO alert. They were all polished balls at the
Okay.
moment.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back and talk a little bit about your college experience at Weber. Would you share a little bit about just overall your experience bowling at Weber? And then, if you would, I'd like for you to cover a little bit about the championship that was taken away and kind of what all happened
Yeah.
behind that.
Every
And
time that you like somebody asks me about college, that's one of my first
yeah.
images in my head, right? I loved it. I really like college bowling. I like the program a lot. I like the people that I work with, the coaches, the program itself, the school. I really like working there. I spent 5 years down in Lake Los, Florida, and either as a bowler for I bowled for 2 years prior the whole incident, and I was an assistant coach for the rest of my year and a half until I graduated. Um, what did I tell you? I came as a freshman. I was a little older than my other, let's say, students that they
Okay.
were there. My friends and my teammates. I came in as a 24-year-old freshman. I
Okay.
studied accounting back home, but once I got the opportunity to come to US, I dropped it off for like, okay, I'm going to US to study to bowl. So to me, it was something that was like a win-win situation. So I took the opportunity that came. I loved it the first 2 years. I really enjoy bowling. College bowling is not for everybody. It's a very different type of atmosphere, but I really enjoy that. We were so enthusiastic about college
Hmm.
and about bowling, and everybody that in the team they really like bowling. I like so it is a different mindset, I would say. that you're going to represent your school, and so many great bowlers in US that there is insane. I loved it. But going to the situation that happened in 2017. So we won the national championship in 2017. I was part of the team. And then very next year, I came back to bowl like in every other year. We take the summer off, and then we go back into the preseason, practicing, getting ready. Once we get into right before getting to the actual postseason, where you start getting like the bigger tournaments, the Hoosier,
Mm-hmm.
and the tournaments in Vegas, and the tournaments, the sectionals, all that. I got a call. Well, my coach gets a call that from USBC saying that our national title was revoked
Hmm.
because they had let's say like a player that was not supposed to be bowling in college at all,
Oh, wow.
and it wasn't end up being me because prior coming to US to bowl at Weber, since I was in the national team, the federation would send us to different international tournaments as a preparation. Let's say we have Central American games that are going to be in Mexico. So prior that, there was USBC Masters happening, or in this case, or in my case, there was the Summer Swing
Okay.
that it was in Oklahoma at the moment. There was a PBA event. In order to get to the PBA event, PBA at the moment, they will offer something that's called an international PBA membership. You will be able to bowl one event as a PBA member, I guess,
Gotcha.
one event and three regionals throughout the year.
Okay.
So for me, it was perfect because I was just coming to US just to bowl one event and then go back home. So that was the membership that I applied for. I got it, and I bowled my tournament, went back home, and once I came to US, that happened throughout 3 years, and I ended up bowling 2, 3 different World Series of bowling and Oklahoma Open.
Okay.
So it used to be called Summer Swing back then. When that happened, based on the USBC rules, they are saying since I bought some professional events, all those events count as I'm a professional athlete
Hmm.
because I had a membership and
So
I
you're no
bought
longer
those
amateur,
events.
so you can't participate in amateur sports.
And technically, I think in the rules it says that I will have to apply for a waiver. So I think that if you apply for the waiver and you have bowled less than 4 professional events in your life, they could grant you that waiver to be
Gotcha.
back to consider as an amateur to bowl college bowling. But and the problem is that they consider also, let's say, World Series of Bowling. You have the World Series of Bowling, and you have the cheetah and the chameleon and the
Mm-hmm.
shark and the scorpion. 4 different patterns. Since each pattern offers a title, each pattern means one unique tournament.
Mm.
And since that means one unique tournament, I didn't bowl just 3 or 4 PBA events. I bowled 15 or 20.
Oh, okay.
So that puts me in a place where I have no longer, not even a chance to apply for a type of waiver.
Gotcha.
And at the moment, Dale Warren says that he was not involved with the rules. He didn't know the rules. After that, I imagine that he knows the rules from back to back and forward. But it happened that he didn't know the rules. Obviously, I didn't even speak English, so I didn't know that I was
Right.
breaking any type of rule.
Right.
I was just happy that sorry, I was just happy that I could come to US and bowl and be in the college. Just get graduate and get a degree and bowl, and that was amazing for me. But it happened that I broke every rule possible that there is. Meanwhile, and that's why the the national title was vacated, and then nobody has it. I guess
Understood.
I have understand for what I understand. If you go to the national championships, every team it has a picture of the team of every year that the team has won national championships. When you get to 2017, it's completely black. There's
Wow.
nobody. There's
Wow.
no picture.
Interesting.
And sadly, no, that was my fault.
So were you able to finish still bowling your collegiate career?
No, I was automatically suspended for life from
Wow.
college bowling.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and yeah, and our coach at the moment, like head coach of the team, Del Warren. He was suspended for the rest of the season
Okay.
until that July, and I was suspended for life from
Wow.
college ball. Yeah,
And that was your was that am I correct? That was your freshman year?
that was my sophomore year.
Sophomore year. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
you
started.
so you didn't get to bowl your junior and senior year?
No, no.
Okay.
I the way thanks to Weber and Kegel and Del Warren and Chartrand, they allow me to stay in the team. They allow me to stay as a keep my scholarship
Okay.
and help the team as a assistant coach.
Gotcha.
So still had to participate in every activity with the team. I still had to show up for practices and everything, but more like as a coach
Gotcha.
than as an athlete.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm super glad to them that they hand me a hand with that. Like they very helpful because it would have been bad. It couldn't be that I had to leave home at that
Sure.
moment because you know it gets a little expensive to be able to afford the whole school for by yourself.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about bowling.
Yep,
And your bowling career after college. Um,
yep.
how do you mentally prepare for a tournament?
Wow. Usually, I like practicing. I am the type of bowler that I have to be on the lanes quite often. For example, in December, I took a long break for whatever reasons. So we were traveling. It's December, holidays, and this and that, and I didn't practice for a whole month. And believe me, to get back into it right now, it's been tough.
Huh.
It is. I am the type of bowler or the type, like yeah, the type of athlete that I have to be constantly practicing, constantly working on my game, and to keep it sharp and to keep on it. And it's tough. Like it's something that I have to spend a lot of time on the lanes. I have to spend a lot of time working in my game, and it has paid off multiple times, which I'm super glad of. But it's something that I have to work on. So before going to a tournament, I take, let's say there is an event. If you want to ball, there's an event every week somewhere, right? Every weekend you could ball. But like if I'm preparing to a bigger tournament, let's say USBC Masters, I start working a lot on my physical game 4 or 5 months prior to the tournament.
Okay.
Like working on my physical game, I try to work out. We work and bowling. Sometimes we the physical aspect we don't touch as much, but I try to like run, go work
Mm.
out is something that I try to keep on it a lot because it's super important. And once it's getting closer to the date, I start like slowing down my pace on practices. Maybe I don't practice 3 or 4 times a week. I practice twice. I pick smaller tournaments or events to go to in order to be tournament ready, and just try to bowl as much as possible until the time is getting there. When it's getting like a month away, I slow down. I practice a lot of spares. I practice a lot of different patterns, different like rotations on hand positions to be a bit more versatile to prepare for those type of events. Like that's the way I address it in a way.
Anything particular or specific you're working on right now?
Yes. So my tendencies are that I get too low with my legs while during my approach, and I'm not a very tall guy. So when I get too low, the leverage in my swing they get a little funky,
Okay.
and the release gets a little delayed. So I do a lot of that creates a lot of mistakes down the road. So right now to get back into it, I'm working on staying taller and my push away to be a little free, so my swing is free, and just working on that. Just trying to get into the basics again, going into the approach and swing. Yeah,
I did
that's what
have
it's been the last week.
I did have a question from an anonymous source that will remain unnamed.
Okay.
That when I told them I was going to be interviewing you, they they said ask you why your ball speed is so slow.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. Everybody knows that my ball speed's slow. That's not a secret. And I embrace it. I know that my speed is slow. That's always been on the slower side. And by now, I just embrace it. I drill the bowling balls to so they are help me to go down the lane a little easier. When I work on it on my physical game, I work on my speed also. When I'm sharp, I don't throw it as slow.
Okay.
But right now, man, it's going. The ball is about to park in the middle of the lane. Like it's just going so slow because I get lower with my legs. I'm not pushing enough, so my legs get slow.
Mm.
My swing is funky, and then my release is not clean, so it's a little grabby. So everything happens to make my ball speed
Yeah.
slower. So
There are
one of
so
the
many
things that I
things.
work,
There are so many
oh, so
things that
many
can
things.
just it's mind-boggling to
Oh man,
try
yes. And it
to figure it all out.
definitely. And you try to figure something out in this area of your game, and the other one goes
Yeah,
south.
exactly.
And it's always trying to balance that out, like
I've been
trying to
trying
adjust
for
here and adjust here.
I've been trying for years now to get my balance arm a little higher, and it just for whatever reason it just doesn't want to go there. So it's just and when I do, then something else like the ball starts like spraying to the right more, and just I mean it's like so it's
Yeah.
always something.
Yeah. That's why we love it, huh?
Yeah,
Bowling.
yeah. If you're like me, you're always working to improve your game. That's why I use Lane Talk. Lane Talk lets me focus on competing while it collects all my stats. After each event, I simply go in the app and collect my scores. It's that easy. Lane Talk gives me in-depth information showing me areas I need to work on. Download now in the App Store or Google Play. Join me and take your game to the next level with Lane Talk. So you're at a tournament and you don't know what the lane condition is. You've got a variety of equipment with you. What would you do to figure out where the best places for you to roll the bar to start with? What gives you the most margin of error and that sort of thing?
Well, that's something that they actually, because college bowling, you when you go to nationals or sectionals, you have no idea where you're bowling on.
Okay.
So that's something that we practice a lot at Kegel, is figuring it out where or what part of the lane, how long, how much volume there might be on the lanes, depending on how to discover as easy as possible. So it's a series of steps. I have it memorized because it works very well.
Okay.
So first thing, just bring a shiny ball, something that goes long and is sharp in the back,
Okay.
and
Was it
go
something like
stand
an
on.
attention star maybe? Is that a good example?
I would even go cleaner than that. I
Okay.
would go, let's say, a Sand Gold label, which right now I think it's just discontinued. But let's say like a tropical,
Oh,
the
okay.
black, the night is something like very very clean
Okay.
and it doesn't hook much. And you go into the foul line and throw it as slow as possible, as spinny as possible, up 20.
Okay.
So depending on how much the ball skids throughout the lane, that gives you an idea of how long or how short the ball,
Okay.
the pattern might be.
Okay.
Because you throw it so slow and the ball is shiny, doesn't hook much, gives you an idea of how much the ball is going to go down the lane. If it goes all the way into the pins or closer to the pins, it's a longer pattern. If it hooks in the middle of the lane, you know that it's shorter. It could be 32, 33 feet, 35 feet, depending what part of the lane it hooks. After that, you see how the idea to go spinny with it is to see how much, when it finally hooks, how much that ball responds to the friction. The more it responds to the friction, that means that there's more volume. The less they responds to the friction, the less volume there is on the lane.
And that's
So that
because
gives you
the more volume, the ball is storing energy longer down the
exactly,
lane and then releasing it at one time. And where if it's less
exactly.
volume. So on that note, real quick, is there a certain amount of volume on the lane that when it just doesn't really matter anymore, like you've kind of crossed over a part where if it's 30 mils or 40 mils or 50 mils, or like at some point that doesn't matter anymore. But if it was only 10 mils, that would obviously make a big difference.
There is a point like I think that it always matter because the more amount of volume in order to have a good ball reaction, you need to make the ball read the pattern in a certain place depending on how long the pattern is. So the higher the volume, usually the more surface that you need to make the ball read the lane and the mid lane the right way. Or you need stronger bowling balls with more surface. Or if it goes sideways in the back, that's when people try to use urethane because it's a bowling ball that doesn't respond to friction. So that will give you a bit more margin of error. So the idea is to like kind of have an idea how much volume there is so you can, if you can adjust your surfaces, you have to do it while practicing.
Right.
Yeah, but it always matters. Like if you have something with 35 mils, like if you look at the PBA guys bowling on cheetah with the new cheetah pattern,
Right.
35 feet and 37 mils, that's incredible. It's crazy amount of volume.
Right.
So you see them throwing urethane for just one game, and then they're throwing the biggest balls that every company produces to in order to combat that carry down or that amount of
Mm.
volume. Yeah, so
Do they do
and
that?
it
Do they do that to make the pattern feel longer, and then they can manipulate with what ball they want to use?
I believe so. I believe that the amount of volume that they're creating is because they want the carry down time process to happen faster, and people have to get out of urethane quicker.
Hmm.
So they have to. It makes it also a little trickier because they are so tight. But they all that they're getting so tight down the lane that it's all happening depending on like what part of the lane they are bowling and what type of balls they're throwing, and that could make the pattern tricky because some of them they might feel like 43 feet down the lane, and some of them they might feel like 38 feet. So making those transitions and those adjustments, it makes it a little trickier, extra difficult. So I think that that's the whole idea out of it. And with the urethane balls at 78 hardness now, doesn't matter if you put 180, you have 37 mils out there.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how much surface you have, the ball doesn't want to wrinkle,
Right.
doesn't want to hook.
So then, this is the part that I sometimes get hung up on is
Okay.
obviously, uh, let's say you've got a pattern that's 40 feet, just to make an easy number. So you know the length of the pattern, but you have a lot of volume. So
Yes.
if you, the more volume, obviously, the longer it takes for the ball to slow down, and the ball needs to be going a certain speed off the pattern in order to
Yep.
hook. Otherwise, it'll just blow through the break point, even if you threw an accurate line.
Yep.
So a a shinier ball will store more energy and react more strongly off the back end, but
Yep.
it has a harder time slowing down in that volume.
Yes.
So whereas if you were to use a something stronger, just like this isn't made anymore, but like a proton physics or something,
Yep.
that if you were to use it in the middle of the lane, it is going to slow down more because of its surface and design, but it's going to have less energy off the back end.
Which
Am I correct about that?
during completely, but you might want that during fresh. Usually, the more volume, the back ends a little. Let's say we call it crispy. Is when the bowling ball they go sideways, and sometimes it's very difficult to control.
Because
And the whole
if you're a
idea of bowling is
mile or
to
two off on
really,
your speed, it could do a lot of different things off the pattern.
or even on your hand, if you are like a little
Mm,
more around it or a little more on the back of it, it's gonna make the ball stand up and go a bit further straight or
okay.
go sideways on the back side of the pattern. So instead of going, let's say, strike and a 4 pin on a pass shot, you go strike and big four.
Mm,
So the idea is in order to control the pattern, you could put surface on the ball so they slow down earlier and they lose so much energy that they're smoother in the back.
okay.
Or what nowadays everybody does, throw urethane. Everybody does it now because
Yeah.
it's the easiest way how to control the back end is throwing urethane.
Okay.
And once it carries down a little bit, that pattern stretches front to back,
Right.
then you can throw a bigger ball, a reactive ball that you need a bit more continuation, a bit more change of direction in the back end.
Okay. So yeah.
Yeah,
So the bigger balls will, as a positive, will slow down in more volume. Uh,
yeah,
and I guess this could be a positive or a negative, but that off the pattern, it's not going to give you as much shape, which
yeah,
could be a good thing if you want to control a crispier back end. But as
exactly.
the lanes start to break down, that could be actually a good thing because now you're actually just rolling through that carry down, and it doesn't affect like a shinier ball goes down, makes a move, and then stands up because it hits some carry down, and you wash out or something.
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely. That's exactly why nowadays it feels like people throw urethane and then they throw bigger, stronger cover stocks, stronger bowling balls because that gives you the most margin of error. Something that I like I was telling you, like you in order to read the pattern, right? You throw the
Yep.
polish ball up the middle and it going to go sideways. Then the next things that you should do, throw it up the gutter.
Mm.
Like if you throw it up the gutter, you know, regardless of the pattern, because sometimes you're bowling, let's say USB-C Masters a couple of years ago. It was 47 feet, but everybody was playing to the gutter because
Mm.
that's the shape of the pattern was there. So it's
Okay.
always good to try the gutter. Or if you're bowling on house shot, you know that that's completely dry.
Right.
But if you're bowling on a tournament, you should always try it because you never know. Sometimes even the topography of the lanes help the pattern play easier up the gutter. If it doesn't play, you know that it's out of play, and then you try to go the pattern length minus 31 thing that like if the length is 40 feet, your breakpoint should be around 9. You can apply that there. But you should always try the gutter just in case.
Okay. And we've kind of already kind of touched on this a little bit just with what you just shared, but what is your strategy for when you're in a tournament and you get lost? The things maybe you change pairs and what was
Yeah,
working on this pair suddenly and that is not working whatsoever. What is kind of
which
one of the
hap-
first
which happens so much, and it's so
right.
frustrating. You go shoot 260, and then you go into the next pair, it's completely different. You're
Right.
like, wow, what happened here?
Right.
Let's say if you are in a tournament, let's say USBC Masters,
Okay.
because you have so many ball reps around
Right.
and other people watching, you could find a friend, find a ball rep that could help you. It's like, hey, do you know who was in this pair before me?
Mm,
If you didn't get to see it, were they throwing urethane? Were they throwing reactive? Did they ball well? Did they ball bad? What part of the lane were they bowling? If you have the opportunity, it will be perfect. You can ask them.
sure.
If not, you will have to see if you're bowling with other people in your lane, see what everybody's doing. Let's say, oh, he threw it like through second arrow,
Okay.
board 10, or
Yep.
he's going through 20, or like make your decisions based off how are they bowling? Are they scoring well? Is it working for them or not? And that gives you like little ideas. Everything is like a guesstimate in a way because we don't really, nobody owns the truth in bowling. Like it's incredible how everybody sees bowling in a different way. In many occasions, everybody's right.
Mm,
Like it's depending how you see it. It's also depending how you bowl. Like I don't have much ball speed, so just for me to like move right and throw it faster, that doesn't apply very much. I'm not very
sure.
good. I'm not going to be very good at it. But I could try to go with a bowling ball that doesn't hook as much and try to stay as right as possible. That the bowling ball is going to help me to create the shape that I need to create. So things like that, I use that a lot. Like I look around. If it's I'm completely lost in a certain pattern, who's bowling well?
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
let's
What are they
look for
doing?
somebody who's what are they doing that I'm not doing, obviously. So let's go and see like what kind of combination they're doing. Like you can see at the bowling ball, at the rotation, the speed and rev rate combination, and based on that, apply for your own game.
Okay. So if you were to be, let's say you're on fresh, you're on the first pair of a tournament, and you know that the next pair you're going to, you see a bunch of urethane going down the lane, and you're starting off on this pair with maybe something shiny.
Yeah.
Would you be more likely then going over there to keep trying to try what you were having success with on the first pair, or would you go to maybe a bigger ball to counteract that carry down?
Most likely, I will go to a bigger ball. Regardless of my first game, I could have shot 260, but if I see a lot of people throwing urethane, I will make adjustments prior throwing my first shot. I would maybe change balls, move farther right or left, or depending on like what part of the lane they're bowling. But yes, I would make adjustments because urethane changes the pattern a lot. It carries down the oil, as everybody knows, and that makes the lanes a little different to what they play if nobody was throwing urethane. Same as if you're following somebody putting 360 pad on the bowling ball. That makes the depletion of the oil makes it so much higher and bigger that you have to be aware of those things. It's like I remember seeing this like very vividly. People saying that when they were following either EJ Tackett or Jason Belmonte, they were very frustrated because it's like they have so much rev rate and they play so farther left than other people that they have to be aware of who they are following in order to adjust prior
Sure.
to that because of that. So it's everything, man.
Yeah.
Like you have
See the invisible playing surface that no one can see. You can only throw a ball and see what happens.
exactly. And as much as you are making adjustments prior to that, it doesn't mean it's gonna work.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's the frustrating part sometimes. It's like you make all these adjustments in your head and then you end up executing and no, it was not the right pick.
yeah. What is what is the easiest and the hardest part about bowling for you?
um, wow. I don't know what's the easiest. The hardest, I know for sure. The hardest is like the more you get to learn, the more you know that you don't know much about it, and the more that you can overthink. Because the more that you learn about, let's say, I work with making the bowling balls, so I know
Sure.
exactly the materials that are in the balls. I know the tendencies that those materials have. If they are a little more responsive to friction, a little slower responsive to friction, or that helps me sometimes to make decisions quicker but at the same time makes me overthink. Oh, this ball is not going to work because it's not responsive enough. Well, at the end of the day, that was the right ball to do, but it makes me overthink it too much. So that would make it a little it's difficult sometimes. I still try not to let it bug me or like don't overthink it, just go for it. But that would be the more difficult part. Like the more you get to learn, and I love learning about bowling. That's why I love working in the industry. Like I work at Kegel Training Center for a year before I got a job offer at 900 Global in Texas. That is a bowling manufacturer, and I felt like I knew enough working at Kegel because you learn so much being there. Like you have the coaches and giving seminars and giving coaching lessons and all that, so you learn so much about the bowling, the sport, and the physical aspect and all that, how you're supposed to bowl. Once you learn, start bowling, start working in the bowling industry and the bowling ball manufacturer, you start learning the nitty gritty about bowling balls itself, and that all that combined, it can be very very difficult to like not overthink.
Yeah. The
Uh,
paralysis by analysis, they say.
Definitely, definitely. So that will be the difficult part of it. The easy part, I think, uh, I would say how what I really like about bowling is like the environment itself,
Mm,
like how people are so welcoming everywhere you go. Like it's insane. Like I live in Florida, I live in Texas, and now I live in Utah. And the common thing or the common conception that I've seen is that people are very friendly, very welcoming. Uh, they're like as a whole, the environment in bowling is very nice.
yeah.
Like I really like it. I really enjoy being in the industry and being as a bowler, as a worker, as a employee. Everything is just like all that is easy to me. It's so cool.
So I know that bowling balls are tools and we should look at them that way. And it's
Yeah.
dangerous to have a favorite. But do you have a favorite bowling ball of all time or a current favorite ball that you like to use?
Um, my current favorite ball, I would say, is Origin
Okay.
because it reminds me a lot of my old times favorite ball, which was the Global 900 Global Reality.
Okay.
I love the ball. It's a bowling ball that I could throw in any type of pattern. I could do anything I wanted to it. Like if we're bowling on short, medium, long, it doesn't matter. I would throw that ball. It's something that it matched up to my game perfectly, and I really liked it. And now the Origin reminds me to it. Another one, it will be the IQ Tour. Like is IQ Tour is something that because of my low speed, I get thrown IQ Tours a lot because it's a cleaner benchmark ball, I would say, and it's something that I throw everywhere, everywhere. So yeah, that would be my choice.
What things do you love to do off the lanes?
Of the lanes, I used to go to the beach a lot. I used to love it. Back home, obviously, we are in the Caribbean Sea, so we will go a lot with my friends or with my parents, family. I will go very often. I would say at least every couple of weeks I will be there if I didn't have a bowling tournament. But here in Utah, it's a little different.
Unless you
So
like to ski, that'd be.
yeah, exactly. I have never gone, by the
Oh
way. I
wow.
would love to. Yeah, I used to wakeboard
Okay.
back home.
Okay.
So people tell me that I should go on snowboard
Snowboard, yeah.
because it's quite similar in some of the aspects, but I haven't gone.
You
It's kind
definitely need to
of
try it.
that. Yeah, I would like I've been telling Daria that we should go, but Daria, because as a professional bowler, if she gets injured, it's a little
Sure.
dangerous for her career. So she's a little, I'm not sure she will if I want to go. So and it's not blaming her at all because I could have gone also, but I haven't done it. But I like going out. Like we have a lot of lakes here in Utah that people treat like going to the beach. So we have done that quite a bit. So yeah, I would do that. But all my life is surrounded with bowling, man. Like I'm bowling week in, week out. And if I'm not bowling, I'm visiting family. I'm going like not last week, sorry. Last weekend of 2024, I was the last week for New Year's, I went to Florida. to visit my brother. He lives in Florida. My parents were visiting, so we spent New Year's there. And I had to take a couple days to go to Kegel and say hi and say
Yeah,
everybody,
absolutely.
see everyone. So I usually, when I'm not bowling, I'm doing that, trying to
Nice.
like see friends, say like hang out. Yeah.
How would your friends and family describe you?
Ah, well, that's a tough one. I will have to ask them. How would they describe me? Let's say very caring. I think that like family is a big thing. So I love spending time when I can see them. I go and see them. Um, they describe me as passionate for sure. Like I've been always within bowling, and I've always loved bowling, and they know it for sure.
Yeah.
They since I was a kid, I was the guy who had like Giorgio, like we're closing the place. You have to leave. Like stop bowling. And people at Kegel, they were Giorgio. We have to leave, man. Stop bowling. And now it's storm. They don't tell me, so I'm there until 8 p.m. bowling. And I was like, okay, I have to go, right?
Yeah.
So I would say like very passionate person that like knows what he loves and what he likes and tries to pursue it as much as possible. I think that that's how would they describe me.
What is your definition of success?
Um, I would say the definition of success is a person who is happy and content and feels fulfilled by with the choices they have that person has made and where they are standing in life. As much as they might not be where they want to be yet in life, they are happy and they are content to where they are. I would say that that person is successful, regardless of what they could have accomplished or not, or the money or not. I think there are some people they can consider themselves successful in life, having way less than others.
What makes you feel most alive?
Having very good time with people that I love, having that quality time with people that I enjoy hanging out with, winning a tournament. That's that indescribable. That moment is so is very difficult to describe. Like what makes me feel at
Mhm.
least like being able to win a tournament that I feel that I go compete and I end up winning it, and that feeling is amazing. Obviously, it doesn't last very long, so that's why we pursue it again and again. Besides winning a tournament, yeah, spending time with friends, family, people that you care about. That energy and the vibes that
Mhm.
that gives you, it just re how do you say that? Re-energize you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bowling
definitely,
seems to have the ability to, like you said, re-energize you or suck the life out of you.
definitely, and very easily,
Yeah. Yeah.
very easily.
Who or what has been your greatest teacher?
Hmm. I have multiple ones. Um, my parents, firstly, like they are the ones who raised me. I was born and raised in Venezuela until I was 24 years old. So they brought me to life and they taught me everything and they raised me the way that they could, right? Or the way that they thought it was the right way. So they were massive teachers. And once I moved to US, I was all by myself. Family were not here. So that was a big lesson,
Mm.
massive lesson. As much as I was 24 years old, I know that I was not, uh, let's say, mature enough to, and it was a very big lesson to move here to in US by myself. So that was a big lesson. College was Dale Warren, Randy Stoughton, Ruben Giragosian. They were massive uh, influencers in my life, or a way to say it. Like they made many points of views and many things, not just in the lanes, because at the end of the day, those are people that you see day in day out, so that you get to learn from them many different things, like the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between, and they teach you a lot. So I think that they definitely influenced my life a lot. I would say Daria, definitely. Like she has been a person who motivates me and pushes me to be better, and I'm forever grateful with her because she's the person who, if I'm not doing the things the way that I'm supposed, or I'm getting off the line or something, she for sure is gonna make me know that, hey, get back into it. Like you have to do the things the right way. Or she's a person who holds me accountable to a higher standard. So and and she's super supportive with everything.
Mm,
So it's something that a person, for as much as I love her to death, and like we are together, she has made me a better person for sure.
mm, that's amazing. Uh,
Definitely.
what is your most prized possession?
Wow. That's the first time that let's say, my most prized possession. I think that I have one thing that is a gold chain from my dad. So because of the situations in Venezuela, wearing gold is not something that you should be doing in the streets or like anything, because it's a little dangerous. So when I was coming to US, that's something he gave me. He was wearing it actually, and he gave me. It's
Mm.
like, oh, for like, like, so you remember me. And I was like, come
Oh.
on, do you think I'm gonna forget you? But yeah, I think that that's something that I have it safe. Like
Yeah.
I don't wear it myself, but it's something that I really, if I would have to think about it, I would always be that. It would be that because it reminds me to home, to my parents. So I think first time that I'm thinking about this, what's my, yeah, I would say that. I think that that would be my answer. Besides couple very old bowling balls that I have stashed.
That's a great answer. That's really special.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
the last two questions.
yeah.
Will we ever see the long hair make a comeback?
Man, I think that it's gonna get shorter and shorter, honestly, because it's falling. So I don't think so. I think that it's getting, if it's not here, it's getting a little thinner. So maybe next time.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's now or never. So maybe I'm gonna
yeah.
let it grow now.
Well, final question. What is your favorite bowling memory?
My favorite bowling memory. I have multiple ones. I have multiple memories bowling back home. One time, I actually, last time that I went to Venezuela in 2017, I bowled a national tournament back home, and I took my brother, who was bowling at the time, my younger brother, and he had another doubles partner, and I begged his double partners to let me bowl with him because I didn't know there was a tournament, and I had just come back from US to Venezuela, so it was a little late to be able to uh,
Mm.
get myself with my brother. But I begged this guy. I gave him a couple bowling balls, a Kegel jersey, and he said, "Okay, you can take my spot." And I bowled with my brother, and we end up finishing third as
Wow.
doubles. So it was his first medal ever, and it was my first medal with my brother. So that's an amazing memory that I have. I also have another memory bowling in Czech Republic. I went with Daria and her parents, and we all went there to bowl, and it was an amazing time. I didn't. It was even close to win the tournament, which I led. I led onto the finals, and then the first
Oh.
round I got kicked out. So it happens.
Yeah.
But that was also one of the core memories about that I have. Besides winning the national championships with all my friends from college, that I'm still very in touch with. Like we're talking quite, not like every day. Obviously, everybody has their own lives now, and
Right.
everybody's doing their own thing. But I stay in touch with them quite often. So it's just many memories of different scenarios and people, and just hanging out, and super grateful that like the people that I have got to meet
Yeah.
because of the sport that we do.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
Gio, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for
same
coming
man.
on.
Thank you so much, man. Like, this was amazing. Thank you so much for the invite again, the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
No, thank you.